This story is called the Black Powder Incident. When I was half again as tall as I am now, which isn't very, I was sent to live in the household of a prominent cannon crafter in Charleston. I will refer to the man and his wife as Mr. and Mrs. for the tale-telling. Frankly, I've had so many homes I long ago gave up remembering all the names. They are all a collection of Mr. and Mrs. now, mostly. Father Carmichael was over the orphanage back then. He was happy they agreed to try to care for me. He was crying tears of joy. I even swore I heard the whole of the orphanage cheering at my departure, which is a surprise considering the number of troubles I had there. This couple had a really nice home close to the beginning of the Docks business district. They had a well-appointed shop on the street that bordered the front yard on one side, and a good-sized storage shed that bordered the other. He had a nice yard with a picket fence and many flower beds and gardens that the missus tended very well. The centerpiece of the yard facing the street was a particularly well laid out black tupelo tree. Its trunk was thick and strong, and its branches spread over a good deal of the yard, providing nice shade for the hottest part of the day. It was a very friendly and welcoming place, and often received compliments from passersby, which made the missus very proud. So it was a great blow to the household when during a big storm, a bolt of lightning hit the tree and took it right down to a large, ugly, charred stump. Now the mister, he was keen to keep the missus happy, so he vowed to remove that old stump so that another tupelo sapling could be planted in its place. He started, but within a few days of working on it, a flurry of Spanish harassment occurred on the coast, and mister's work greatly increased, demanding much of his time. Now, this house was one of the nicer homes I've lived in. When I did find troubles here, I had less occasion to get the type of stern talking to that requires walking off. So, I was invested in helping my status in any way that I could. It so happened that St. Michael's was putting on a social function, and Father Carmichael had recommended that I be left at home when he stopped by to extend the invitation. Other families I had been placed with would be in attendance, and he was afraid my presence would bring up many bad memories of my troubles. So, I found myself alone and home alone for the day of the event. I was thankful. I'd seen enough church living at the orphanage, to be honest, and the good father was one of those easily hysterical types that fretted over everything, especially my troubles. So, there I was, with an idea to help the Mr. and Mrs. and the time alone to get it done. I took the spare keys from Mister's hiding spot and went to the shop. There I fetched some supplies. Match cord, some jute fabric, a good knife, and some sulfur sticks, and a long burning candle. There was no wind that day, so I figured it would suffice for my needs. I then wrestled out a small keg of Mr. Black Powder. I set all this out by the front gate of the fence line and began my work. The first time, I fastened a pouch by cutting some fabric and tying it off after stuffing it with a small amount of powder. Then twining some match cord together to make a string from the stump to the gate. I lit a sulfur stick with the candle flame and put it to the fusing. I watched the fire lick its way up the cord patiently. It sparked and sputtered a few times, making me wonder if my idea was going to work. But it did reach the pouch. Pop! It was rather loud, but I wasn't concerned. Mister often made noise this time of day when testing products for sale, so anyone in the vicinity wouldn't be overly concerned. When I examined the stump, a small chunk of it had been blown out, so I was assured that my plan would work. The next pouch I made was slightly larger, the makeshift fusing slightly shorter, and again it blew off the chunk of a stump with a loud pop that echoed off the buildings around the neighborhood. Again and again, pouch, fire, pop. This went on for a long while, and I wasn't making way with that stubborn stump. I was knocking off smallish pieces of it, but the bulk of the stump remained steadfast for me every time the smoke cleared. Another idea struck me, and I checked the small keg of powder I'd borrowed from the stores, and I saw it was half used. In my head, I added up the damage that the piece had done and figured if I just set the rest of the barrel next to the stump, that might do the trick. So I went to work setting the fuse up. Once done, I thought about it for a second, decided that even if I did remove once again the amount of stump, there would still be some stump left over. I pondered for a good few minutes before returning to the mister's shop and fetching a larger keg of black powder. This one I had to roll on its side to get it out to the stump. It took me a good few minutes to get it out there, heaving and huffing quite a bit. I figured this would be enough black powder to get rid of the old stump, and I even imagined myself getting praise from the Mr. and Mrs. for clearing the way to have her pretty yard back again. Turns out, my mathematical calculations weren't very precise. In retrospect, and in my own self-defense, I blame my impatience to get work finished quickly. Mr. Lee can attest to that. I lit the fusing and retreated to the fence line once more to watch the spark work its way down towards the barrels. You ever have troubles like I do? And you know what I mean when I say that sometimes, in very bad troubles, time has a way of slowing down and sometimes freezing moments into your brain. This is what I remember in the order I can best recollect. The spark hit a half-used small keg of black powder, vanished in just a second before a great sound like "Fa-woo" boomed in my ears. The concussion of the blast threw me backwards clear across the street and against the storefront that faced the mistress. I reckon about 40 feet or so. I confess I went a bit fuzzy with things coming in and out for a good few minutes. I do recall the town doctor hovering over me, saying, "I think she's going to make it." And then I heard the mistress say, "Doc, you better revive her because I'm going to kill her myself." I don't remember much else except while I was in the orphanage sick room again, I woke up in the middle of the night to a commotion of nuns physically restraining Father Carmichael from my room. He was in quite a state. I found out later that a group of townsfolk had come to the church and demanded an immediate exorcism on myself because I was obviously possessed of a demon or something. Soon after, Father Carmichael had what they call a breakdown. That is when Father Malley came to take his position. I also learned that the blast had indeed removed the stump, as well as the stump-facing walls of the shop, the house, and the shed. In addition to the entire fence, and all the windows for a 6-block radius had to be replaced.
Oh, man.
I myself was banned from the city limits for a year's time with threat of hanging from the local magistrate. They never did exorcise me, whatever that is. But they did make me get baptized again, and I was made to take communion every single day possible for the rest of my stay at the orphanage. And that is my tale of this trouble. Thank you for listening.
Wow.
you.
Great story.
Wonderful. Great story.
Great story.
Interesting
story.
Absolutely wonderful.